Bring your cup and take a seat. Fill it up, coffee, wine, or tea. Come find what you're looking for. A good pour.
Hey, welcome back to A Good Pour Summer of Good AI. I'm Catherine Good, your host. Today, I have a conversation that I think will land differently than most AI episodes you might have heard. My guest is David Adams. He works at the Urban Assembly, an education nonprofit in New York City that's building real AI tools inside public schools. Not piloting them, not studying them, actually building, testing, and seeing what they do in real classrooms with real teachers and real kids. David built CounselorGPT, a tool that helps students understand their post-secondary options before they make expensive, uninformed decisions about their futures. He also built Project Cafe, a video-based coaching tool that gives teachers feedback on their own practice, and the results have been meaningful. What I love most about this conversation is how David thinks before he builds. He starts with the problem, not the tool, definitely not the trend. And he's thought carefully about where AI belongs and where it doesn't, especially in education. If you're an educator, a parent, a school leader, or anyone using AI in your work right now, I think this episode is worth your time. All right, David, welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Okay, I like to kick this off with, tell me when you knew that AI was going to change our world.
I was sitting in an audience of in a conference, and there's a technologist, Charles Fidel, and he was demonstrating the adoption rate of AI, and he had been in AI for like 30 years. This is like not generative AI, machine learning, like algorithmic kind of spaces. So he looked at the adoption of generative AI. He looked at the edge cases in terms of capabilities, in terms of affective reasoning, social reasoning, and I just knew in that moment I was actively angry that we had not been more aggressive at utilizing and applying these capabilities to solving problems in public education. The person I was sitting next to, Kristen Kearns-Stewart, she's like, David, what's wrong? And I'm just like, we are so far behind. In fact, he had a chart, and it was like industry, it was like government, it was like 2-year-olds, and it was like education in terms of adoption of educational tools. Now, I just want to say this, Catherine, we know we're in a little bit of a moment in terms of pushback on edtech. Adoption of educational tools is different than integration of capabilities to solve problem sets, right? So you can adopt a tool and not solve a problem. Somebody's making money, right? Yeah. So I just knew. I sat there and I was like, we got to do better and we got to do faster. And we started building out these capabilities. We applied them to problem sets in public education, and we haven't looked back.
That is amazing. So, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm teaching some AI I'm in the state of Tennessee. There's a kind of a statewide guidance that they want our CTE teachers to teach ethical AI, but no one has taught them ethical AI, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we catch up?
Well, okay. First off, we got to do a better job at applying AI to discrete and bounded problem sets rather than talking about AI as if it's like this catch-all for all for everyone to solve all problems everywhere. We're seeing pushback for the edtech space because a lot of these tools have not been efficacious in their application and have not actually solved problems on behalf of education. So I'm sure you know that in reality, over the last 10 years in specific, literacy has decreased. We're struggling to get our kids back up. Now, there's a lot of multifaceted reasons for this. People will be like, it's the screens, it's the pandemic, it's a lot of things. I don't know why, but I do know that we've seen a lot of tools in the same time that have not reached their promise. Everything from personalized learning. I don't know if you remember sitting kids on computers that would be like really specific to their needs. Turns out kids don't like to be sitting on computers and learning from screens. They like to be learning from peers and interactions. So we got to catch up by bounding the problem sets that generative AI is actually sensitive to solving for. So at the Urban Assembly, we think about time, we think about knowledge, we think about resources and incentive structures, and we think about releasing those constraints to drive educational energy into learning units, right? And so instead of just saying we're going to use AI, we can say we're going to use AI to reduce the cost of teacher feedback in order to increase the frequency and to increase teacher capability and capacity, drive learning units for students. It's bounded, it's specific, and it's something that AI is good at, which is surfacing and mapping patterns,
Yeah.
right? So to catch up, we got to redefine our problem sets cleanly and clearly. We have to communicate to our parents about what AI can and can do, should and could do, so that they know that their kids are going to be loved on, they're going to be paid attention to. And in the meantime, in terms of like specific problem sets, we may use AI to consolidate information on exit tickets so that a teacher can refine her lesson plan for the next day without having to read 45 different responses.
Yeah.
Right? That's clean, it's clear, and it's a tool or it's a use case that AI is well suited to solve for.
Yeah. So I have a freshman, or he just finished his freshman year of
Congratulations.
college,
Oh,
and I have and then I have an upcoming senior.
you had
My
when you were like 10 years old.
uh, no, I have my senior has always wanted to be a teacher, like
Okay.
probably since 3 years old. She was the one that got the award in class of like most likely to be a teacher, right? I actually tried to talk her out of it because I was like, education is going to be changing so much. But, one, I don't mess with a calling, and I really feel like this is a calling. And
Mm,
two, we're going to have people on the front line of this, right? To wherever we're going that people, can buy in and be leaders in shaping this. So I say that one, she's always known what she wants to do. My son, who is a freshman, who, is in education, not in well, he's being educated. He doesn't want to go into education. He's in the
ah,
school of business right now. He doesn't really know what he wants to do right now.
not business?
He thinks it's business,
Okay, fair
right?
enough. I
And
just want to
so,
make sure he knew he was in that school.
I mean, he's not going to be a doctor. He's not going to be, like it's he likes the world of business. I think he would like to own his own business. He looks at his mom who owns a business. Like we've had some discussions on is the marketing business and now kind of an AI business. Is that can he come on at some point and it be more of a family business? All that to say, you
Yeah.
have this like counselor GPT helping kids think through pathways,
Yeah.
which is brilliant. One,
Thank
but
you.
two, like the pathways are kind of changing. At least it feels like as a mom and as someone who is helping out with our school
Yeah.
systems. How are you navigating that
Mhm.
part?
So you got to shift it from like making the right decision to thinking about decision making itself, right? So many students and young people don't have a lot of information about their post secondary pathways, period. End of story, right? I want to live close to home. I want to live far. This sounds cool. I've seen it on TV. And
I want to be
these,
an influencer and make a lot of money on YouTube. I hear that one.
I mean, I hear it from the kids all the time. Like and subscribe, right?
Yeah.
Smash the button. So what we're doing at the UA with Counselor GPT, right, is collapsing this information constraint. So there are more informed decision making about post-secondary decisions. So we're not saying do this thing. We're saying here's the likelihood for a growth path in this space. Here's the last 3 years of data around that growth. Here's the cost of a credential to get into that field. Now, why is this important, Catherine? Because as the cost of credentials has increased, the risk of not getting a return on those credentials has increased as well.
Right.
Right? Imagine you walk into an investment space and you're like, look, I want to buy a car. And they're like, okay, what kind of car do you want? And you're like, well, I'm not sure. And they're like, well, some cars do differently in terms of returns than other cars. And you're like, I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm just going to choose, right? Because I like the color red. With Counselor GPT, what we're saying is you don't have to choose a career that's high wage, high growth, but you should not know information about high wage, high growth careers. You don't have to choose a credential that's shorter versus longer, but you should not know that if you want to be a surgical technician and start at 65,000, the credential is X, the internship is Y, and this is a path to growth in your county or not. So to your son's point, what we want him to do is say, hey, mom, did you know there was a thing called air traffic administrator? And here's where they're hiring for that. And here's your credential associated with that. And here's the pay associated with that on average. So then he can make a decision about what he wants to do in his post-secondary outcomes. And I'll say this one more time. We want to move from guessing to guidance. This is too much money to
Yes.
guess around with regards to return on investments.
Yeah.
If I could increase decision making quality by 20%, I may save kids hundreds of thousands of dollars with regards to matching their credential to an outcome. Now, we're not against college. I think there are great careers that you can develop with a college degree. What
And
we
there's
are
lots that you don't need a college degree for,
and
right?
there's lots that you
Yeah.
don't need a college degree for. Now, with 70% of people who are going to college saying we are going to college in order to support economic mobility, they should have information around what the degrees and credentials are associated with that. So, to your son, I would say if he were on Counselor GPT, he could look at careers across a range of potential and performance. And he would come to you and say, Mom, I really want to make sure that I have a family sustaining wage by age 26. And Counselor GPT has helped me do that.
That's awesome. So one of the things I've really challenged him, before kind of looking at your stuff and really just trying to think through how the world is changing is what problem do you want to solve? Where do you feel like your skill and your talent can add to this world? And he's said things like, mental health is important to him, and he finds himself in conversations with people that, maybe he's helping. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's explore where that could take you, because it may not be in the school of business, right? And so,
Yeah.
but you're right. I mean, there's a point of, it kind of feels like every minute we could be wasting money because are you on the right path?
I mean, one of the interesting things is, and this is not something that's often understood. Let's say I did 4 years as a degree and 2 years as a master's, right? Now there's the obvious cost of what 4 years and 2 years as a master does, but there's also in that time, if I was working in school full time, maybe I gave up $200,000 worth of wages that I could be making in that space as well. Now maybe when I do this 4 years plus 2 years, my wage potential is greater because my credential enables me to make more money, but maybe not, right? So this question of how we're using time, how we're collapsing the information constraint so we can make better informed decisions, this is the key to urban assembly. This is the key to our innovations. If your son knew what he wanted to do in terms of his skills and could map that to a career that was high wage, high growth in his area, then he would be on the path to moving out of your house, getting himself into economic and social mobility, right? And doing what we all want to do for our kids, which is being independent, self-sustaining folks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, clearly you see good things and bad things with AI. Especially you're in a field that is built on human connection and exploring that human connection. Are there things that you just are like, no, do you have an AI line, I guess, that you refuse to let AI touch?
I have problems that I think are better solved by better solutions.
I love that.
Right. I was thinking about this. I wrote a piece the other day, why we don't use AI to read bedtime stories to your children at night, right? If you think reading bedtime stories is about just like reading words to your child, then you could use AI. In fact, you could just use a self-reading book, turn page, right?
Yeah.
If you recognize that bedtime stories are about relationship development, they're about creating bonds, they're about parenting with joint attention across a similar referent, which is a book, a story, a tale, a fable, then you realize, like, why would I want AI to bond with my child if it could, which it probably is not that good at, right? Because we
Right.
bond
Right.
mostly with people. But it's replacing a core function of what we're trying to accomplish. So, like, I don't have lines. I just have, like, I want to be a father to my child. And so I don't need AI to read a bedtime story. Not that my children are 13 and 14, so I don't do bedtime stories. We do character education. But like to me, it's just a problem that I want to solve because I want to be in relationship with my children. Same thing with teaching, right? Teaching is structured human development. Okay, you could put a tool that knows students well and asks them questions about like their favorite X, Y, or Z. In fact, let me give you an example of this. There's a tool that would ask students to tell them their moods. And then the proposal was that teachers would look at this dashboard and be like, okay, Catherine is feeling upset. Go check in with Catherine. And maybe I sent a little prompt, Catherine, how are you doing? Right? And you're like sad, and you're like, that's cool, right? So what happens is like, instead of interacting with the child, you're interacting with a dashboard. Instead of paying attention to your children, you're paying attention to data. Instead of looking at the faces of students, you're looking at emojis. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's
So true.
understanding the role of teaching and learning in relationships. You got me?
Yep, so true.
So that's my red line. It's just like you solve problems that need to be solved well.
Yeah,
And the problem of being in a relationship needs to be solved with people.
yeah,
Because otherwise, like, what are you in a relationship with? I guess I could be in a relationship with my phone, but I really want to be in a relationship with people, and so does everybody else. I'll say one last thing about this notion of like social media increasing loneliness because it's like a very, very diet version of a relationship. You think you're in a relationship, but you're not in proximity. You're not in a physical kind of space, an emotional space. And so young kids feel more lonely even as they're spending more time in relationship on social media.
yeah,
Those are red lines for me, but they're not red lines because I'm like, I don't want autonomous AI engines. It's because there are things that should be solved by certain people. Actually, I got one last one.
yeah. Please, it's brilliant. Yep.
All right. So let's say we are in a courtroom, right? And you're presenting a case. And you've got 12 people who are listening to your case, guilty, not guilty. Now, the purpose of a jury is to lend a sense of legitimacy to a verdict by using peers to give and pass judgment on their fellow citizens, right? Could we use AI to like take in evidence and give a decision? I mean, I'm sure it's capable of that, but it lacks legitimacy because it lacks responsibility because it's not a real person.
Right.
There's a whole idea that a jury of your peers are the things that are passing judgment because they are your peers. Yeah. So like that's what I mean about like I don't have a red line. I'm sure if I fed the same information into AI, it would be able to say like guilty, not guilty, but it lacks legitimacy because it's a machine
Yeah.
and a machine doesn't have the responsibilities that people do.
I will remember that example for a really long time. I appreciate that.
All
Talk
right.
to me a little bit about Project Cafe.
Project Cafe is our teacher development tool, right? In this case, we saw the problem set that teachers need more feedback. Recognized, all right, well, what's stopping teachers from getting that feedback? Well, it costs too much money, right? So then we identified if we could reduce the cost, we could increase the frequency. Then identified that we can reduce the cost by automating the observation space and then feeding back to teachers examples of their interactions. And so we've developed a tool where a teacher can look at the questions that they ask. That's video based. They can look at their redirections. They can look at their time cues. They can watch and share with other teachers on things like teacher talk time and on topic speech. So now what we're doing is we're collapsing the resource constraint, we're collapsing the time constraint, and what we're seeing is that teachers who use Cafe have about 20% more respectful language, about 45% more positive climate, use previews about 14% higher, which are like directions, summarize and do work on students' thinking about 20% higher.
Wow.
And the more you use Cafe, the better you are at doing these really specific tasks that drives teaching and learning. So again, Catherine, know what your problem is, understanding the constraints, and then applying AI in a way that actually collapses those constraints rather than causes more problems in the future.
Yeah. You're in New York City, correct? I hear some sirens.
I am in New York City. Go Next in 5. I don't know if your folks need to hear this, right? Did you hear about the game last night? Were you in New York?
No, no. My son watched it, but no, I did not.
Oh, eh, there's nothing that I don't think is possible in the world after watching the Knicks come down from 29 points at half to beat the Spurs.
That's awesome. Tell me before. Sorry, I got distracted by the siren. How So there's a part of AI that's a definite. We have to have it's change, right? It's we're implementing change very very quickly in organizations. So how have the teachers that are using Project Cafe how has that gone over in especially if you've got schools using it, or just maybe talk about how you're approaching this change because it is a change for them.
Yeah.
Not just this, but education in general. So I just love any knowledge on how to do this well.
I think first you have to articulate the problem you're trying to solve for and connect it to a problem that we've been trying to solve for in the past. So for a long time, we have tried to improve teacher quality because we know teacher quality is the highest leverage impact in the classroom of student learning, right? About 30% of all student learning is connected to what happens in the classroom. It's not 100%, but it's not zero, right? So the question is, how do you improve teacher quality? And then you apply AI to the solution of teacher feedback and teacher development, teacher frequency of teacher feedback. Most people, if you say, hey, what would it be like to get more feedback to your teachers more frequently? They'd be like, oh, that's a problem set. And then you'd say, well, what's stopping you? They're like, well, we don't have enough time, right? And time, again, connected to resources. So first is you got to articulate the problem in a way that schools or organizations are comfortable with it because they've been working on that problem for a very long time. Same thing with the CounselorGPT, right? Making sure students have effective post-secondary outcomes is usually constrained by the number of post-secondary counselors in your school. But if you see post-secondary counselors as vectors to information around post-secondary outcomes, right? Then you can collapse it from people to information, deliver that information directly to students, and then better utilize the people who can help develop the trust around the nuance rather than say all the information lies in the post-secondary counselor, which they may or may not be aware of labor market statistics and things like that. So state the problem, and most schools have been working on these problems for a very long time. Differentiation, acceleration, MTSS structures. It's not like the first time we've been talking about this. I do think it's one of the first times that we have tools that can solve for it that are not just like stay up till 10 o'clock at night grading papers.
Yeah. Yes. So when I teach, it probably every other time I'm having someone come up and say, okay, I'm all for what you're saying about AI, but my kid is getting in trouble at school because the teacher is using an AI grader to analyze their paper or whatever, and I know for sure sometimes I will write something 100% and I'll put it in an AI grader, and it still says it's 75% written by AI or something. So we're in this tension of we don't want kids to cheat, but we also want them to learn AI, but we also haven't empowered our teachers to know the difference without using an AI powered tool themselves. So any guidance there on really what I should be saying when this question is asked? Because I'm not in education. I know I want kids to understand both how to write, but also how to use an AI tool. But I just don't feel like I have a solid answer. So I just would love to hear what you would have to say to that.
Well, most of the time, Catherine, I'm kind of like, well, on one hand and another hand, but I have one hand on these AI catchers. They are not effective tools.
Can we put this out everywhere?
That's not a solution.
Yeah.
Blue books are a solution. Knowing your students' thinking, elevating your students' thinking is a solution in the class. Having students do projects that use information in different ways is there's a lot of solutions, but these AI catchers and AI tools like that, not only are they, because I talk to my students about this, not only are they not accurate, but students are deeply offended.
Yes.
When a teacher says you didn't write this, AI did, and the student's like, I did write it. And I only know this because like students have come to me and asked me about this, and they don't care about like whether or not I think they wrote it or not. They care about like whether or not I think they're smart, and they want to talk to me about what it feels like when somebody says that you're not capable of doing something that you did.
Yeah.
So I don't use those tools.
I think that's such a great point. It's not just about the grade. It is about the person's feelings. And I've seen it. I've seen it with my kids. I mean, I'm kind of known in our community for teaching AI. And so they'll come up to me and they'll say, I wrote this paper, Miss Catherine. I wrote this paper, and I have a teacher that's basically telling me I didn't.
Yeah.
So you are so right. Like it's hurtful.
It's hurtful.
Yeah.
And it's not worth it. There are more elegant solutions that don't have to impugn student sense of character or student sense of intelligence. And we can talk about those solutions, right? And we talked a little about them, project-based approaches, having students put a first draft out, use AI to revise. Look, I think having feedback from high-quality AI tools on your writing so that a student can get more frequent feedback before they have to put in their final draft, I think that's great, right? Like waiting 30 days for your teacher to grade all your stuff and you forgot what it is that you wrote about, those shorten or they elongate the feedback cycle such that it's harder for students to improve. So there are just like really good ways to use AI to develop students' thinking, writing, etc. But there are also really bad ways, and it all comes down to knowing what problem you're trying to solve. Yeah. Knowing your student well, intellectually and social emotionally, is part of the responsibilities of a teacher. That just is. What do students say all the time? I want to be seen and I want to be heard, right? Another layer of like fakeness and lack of authenticity is going to damage a teacher's ability to be effective. Now, increasing feedback on writing and decreasing the time that students can receive feedback so that students can receive more frequent feedback and do have better outcomes. That's a very different problem set. It may look the same, like AI giving the feedback so a teacher can have multiple opportunities or workshop with another kid while another student's working that space, but they're very different functions of the tool, even though it's doing the same thing. You know, you got me with
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So to end, we've got a lot of school systems across the nation trying to figure this out. Some scared they're going to get it wrong. Like, what would you tell them before they even take the next step? What would you want them to know?
Start with the problem that you're really well familiar with. Start with the problem you're well familiar with. We're thinking in our schools, all right, how do we support differentiation of student tasks across a wide range of performance? We've been working on that for a long time. We know the structure of the problem. We know what it feels like. We know the edges of that problem set. And then think about what capabilities are coming into AI or what AI capabilities are coming into being that can help reduce the constraints in that space. And since you know the problem, you'll know if it's not working. So the advice I'd offer is start with the problem that you know really well. I know the problem of instructional quality and instructional coaching. I know that well. I know the problem of information mismatch and post-secondary outcomes. So if our tools do something weird, I'll know.
Because you're an expert, right? And so you've developed tools in your expertise
Yeah,
to help you do your job better, but also help solve a problem and change the world. But you can identify if they're right or wrong because you know it.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And same thing with our kids. If you don't know your children in your classroom and AI starts giving you all this weird feedback, right? Well, then you're out of luck because you're supposed to know your kids.
Yeah.
You're supposed to know their handwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're supposed to know their mom, their dad, etc.
All right. Where are you excited this is all going, and where are you fearful? And then I don't even talk about the fears much, or maybe concerned, but you're just so positive that I just would love to hear like where you think this is really, really going that's gonna change our world.
I think that students will have opportunities that they've never had before because we don't have to be as constraint based in our solutions. I think we'll have stations in classrooms with group work in one space, really specific feedback and personalized in another, teacher mediated in another, right? I think we're going to have multiple learning modalities that support students moving against individualized gaps, group gaps, in ways that are so much more specific than we could do before, not because we didn't know, but because we didn't have time, resources, etc. And my fears is just that people start thinking that bonds with AI are better than bonds with people.
Yeah.
Start replacing solutions of interactions that really drive attention, motivation, and learning with machines that don't.
Yeah.
Catherine, we went through the pandemic. We know that doesn't work. Let's not revisit those mistakes.
Yeah. I say the same thing about social media. We've made the mistakes with social media. Why are we not applying what we learned to AI, right?
That's right.
But that's choices that you and I have to make, and our organizations have to make, and our school systems have to make, and hopefully we can just continue the conversation, in our parts of the world to get that done.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you and your folks. I'm excited about the work that we're doing here at the Urban Assembly with AI. And if I could leave you with one thing, it's that if you solve problems, you'll be okay. If you're just using tools, I can't vouch for that.
Well, and it's like chasing squirrels to me. Like there's a new tool every day, and I'm like, I can't keep up. But I'm so glad you said that, because as someone who wants to stay ahead in AI, but also wants to solve problems, the minute I feel overwhelmed or I'm losing sleep at night because I feel like I'm not caught up on this model, I'm like, Catherine, what problem are you trying to solve? Let's use AI to help you do that. But otherwise, I'm just losing sleep, right? And so, anyway, great way to end it. Thank you, David. Appreciate you being on.
Cheers.